did it first begin?
About, well, it's just a bit over 3 years, 3.5 years ago. We played our first gig with this lineup. And kind of a little bit before then as a studio project. For the New Year's Revolution, which is a thing they do at King Tut's, they have a bunch of new talent and bands on every year.
Yeah.
3 years ago they asked us, the night before, they'd been a last minute pull out if we could do this gig, and we hadn't really properly played a gig together, so they were like, right, okay, this will be our first gig. So yeah, New Year's Day practically, wasn't it? It was like January the 3rd or something, wasn't it?
I think it was,
2013. Each one of us brings our own ideas to the band, so I'll come up with an idea, for example, I'll play it to the guys, they'll say whether they like it or not. And by the way, we're not precious if someone else doesn't like it, we're just like, right, fine.
Yeah.
We're kind of quite democratic.
Totally
Quite democratic about it, yeah. So I'd come to the band with an idea and they'd go, oh, that's great, right, and then Connor would have some guitar, David would have some dope, and we'd slowly turn it into a She's in Heaven track, rather than being a track by just me, and then exactly the same with them too. So that's what the Hindu Milk EP was like, and that's why every track's really different, I think, because each one of us has got a different idea. Well, we think this album is the strongest thing we've ever done by a mile, and everyone we played it to agrees, so we're going to wait and see. There's 2 or 3 pretty catchy kind of poppy-ish ones on it, so it's got some pretty, it's got like 9 minutes psychedelic prog rock type tracks, and it's got a couple of total disco-y catchy pop tunes as well. It's really, really varied.
Yeah, there's a tune that sounds like Daft Punk and shit, and then there's one that sounds like Can and fuck it.
There's even a kind of R&B, there's an R&B type one with chopped up guitar, which sounds a bit like it's our version of an R&B, so it's really varied.
There's one tune that I sing like Sting as well. Yeah, man. It's like fucking, no, this is great. Yeah. But,
so we're really hoping that people will notice this album and get into it, and I mean it's very, very varied. The styles change every single track, like completely different from the previous one. That was the idea. Wanted to really showcase the sound and do it really varied, but all of our favourite electronic guitar things, kind of all thrown at it at once. Several people said it couldn't be done, but we think we pulled it off, didn't we?
Like basically every vegan place in Glasgow, USA, has like a shit hot musical community surrounding it. Do you know what I mean?
We actually did our album launch at Stereo, the first one. Yeah, a couple of years ago, was it March 2014, wasn't it? Yeah, pretty much exactly 2 years ago, yeah.
It's kind of strange, it's become, in Glasgow, it's became like sort of natural, you don't even think about like places like that, like we're playing at all these places and like going there and getting food and like buying music from there, you don't actually think about like that it is actually a vegan place.
Yeah, you buy a meal, you eat it, and after it you're like, that was delicious. You don't say that was delicious. Oh my god, I didn't eat any meat. You know what I mean? Like you don't do that. You just go and eat it. If it's good food, it's good food.
Yeah. Well, we love. I mean, Old Hairdressers and Stereo, they're both gigs we played at, and obviously they're flying the sort of vegetarian flag anyway. I'm not sure if it's all vegan. It is all vegan. Yeah. We were talking about that earlier. I know they have milk in the coffee.
78 as well. I'm just down the road from 78. It's one of my favourite places to go for a beer and hang out and stuff like that.
What do you call it? Mono as well. Great and
great food.
A pub with a record shop in the back. I mean, that's just brilliant.
I think that's a brilliant and very dangerous idea on payday. But yeah, it's a brilliant idea.
I think that's a good thing about vegan like bars and cafes and stuff, is that the food's probably got a higher level of just being better. And it's not the fact that it doesn't have meat or whatever, it's just the food is generally prepared and just better
it's
in general.
Usually really quite a bit cheaper as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, firstly, none of us are vegans. None of us are even vegetarians, but we are able to acknowledge like the inherent hypocrisy in all people that eat meat. We were talking about that before, weren't we? Including ourselves, yeah. Something that I do feel strongly about though is the ethical treatment of animals, the ethical responsibilities of companies, and I feel like that's more what I have in common with vegan connections, or veganism in general, is the really strong sense of, I hesitate to call it social justice because it's seen as a kind of dirty word these days, but yeah, like there is no other word for it. Like, you know what I mean? It's the ethical treatment of all living things on the planet.
I think also, we were just talking about this, something I feel definitely very strongly about is climate change, and I think that, for example, American beef produce is generally considered, not to mention all the big world populations, including us. That's actually a big factor in climate change. It's just simply the amount of animals that are, let's face it, expelling methane onto eating resources and expelling methane into the planet. So obviously that is a huge issue.
It all boils down to economics as well.
And it wasn't even just being talked about at all. That's one of the issues that wasn't even being talked about in the world climate change conference. That wasn't even, because basically Americans eat beef and
the meat industry
you're not allowed to say anything about it.
Yeah, they're always going to contribute to any kind of environmental problems.
So the problem arguably is the same with the music industry and the film industry, is the fact that it's an industry. You know what I mean? The fact that it's industrial in its nature, it doesn't give and take. It's just take. You know,
it's like the human race.
Exactly.
You can't stop. Each individual, each one of us has got these ideas, but as a race, we can't stop this juggernaut of production and you know.
And that's the dark nature of capitalism. That's the fucking dark nature of capitalism, man.
How do you stop the whole of America or the whole of China doing this? Do you know what I mean? Yes, we can do something here, but we're tiny. You know, it's America and China and Brazil and places like that where, you know, the big populations of the planet.
But we're all responsible for. I mean, I hate to sound like a soundbite, but we're all responsible for being the change that we want to see. Do you know what I mean? We're all responsible for that.